Hello everyone and welcome to another most exciting game between these two gentlemen. Yesterday we've checked out a game where Xiangyu had the white pieces and Grischuk won a very nice game, even though he was lost at one point, but someone is always lost at one point. And finally, it took us 3 videos, but we finally got the quote above the board right. So now this is a rematch. Xiangyu must win on demand, as if he draws or loses the game, he is out of the FIDE World Cup. So let's see what he chooses with black as a must-win opening. Grischuk opens with d4. Sorry about that. With knight to f6 by Shu, c4, e6, knight to f3, and of course d5. The queen's gambit declined is on the board, and the g3. Grischuk prepares to fianchetto the light square bishop, and black does the same. With bishop to g2, bishop to g7, and both players castle. And here, Grischuk just plays b3, preparing to fianchetto the other bishop as well, because why not? Black is playing symmetrically, so there's no need to rush anything. With knight to c6, bishop to b2, developing the dark square bishop as well. And now there are a few known moves in this position, like rook to b8 is a known move, knight e7 is a known move, a5 is a known move, but b6, the move Shu plays, is a new move in this position, and this is, well, perhaps something he prepared for today's game, which will give us, well, 4 fianchettoed bishops, which is not something you see very often. With knight bd2 and now bishop to b7. And now if you check out the bishops, it's not like super rare, but it is rare to see them nicely fianchettoed like this. Rook to c1 by Grischuk, putting a rook on a soon-to-be open c-file, well, semi-open. So knight to e7. And here comes queen to c2. With rook to c8, black does the same, and rook f to d1, developing the other rook as well. Black develops the other rook as well, rook to e8, and now knight to e5. An excellent square for the knight that also opens up this diagonal. Now black is unable to capture on c4, as the bishop on b7 would hang. With knight to d7, offering a trade of bishops here, and here knight back to d3. Grischuk declines. With knight back to f6, and here Grischuk says to his opponent, knight back to e5. He says, even though it's only move 15 and I have the white pieces, I am very satisfied with a draw here, because drawing a game in this position would assure me to advance in the FIDE World Cup 2019. So of course Shu cannot allow this, even though he would not mind a draw with black against Grischuk, but not in a game that he simply must win. So he plays h5 and now e4 by Grischuk. With d captures on e4, knight captures on e4, knight captures on e4, bishop captures on e4. All the trades are in, well, Grischuk's favor. Bishop captures on e4, queen captures on e4, and now c6. And if you look at this position, seems like black is perfectly fine, but black doesn't really have much to show for. Queen to f3 now. Here Grischuk is going after the f7 pawn, and black has to defend it. Now either black will try something like f6, or will he capture the knight on e5. Maybe f6 here was just a little bit better, as well. It's hard to say, but you don't want to trade too many pieces. You have to win this game with black. But okay, with bishop captures on e5, d captures on e5, opening up an attack against the queen now, and queen to c7, attacking the e5 pawn. And here, well, not at the moment as it's protected by the bishop, but, pressuring it. With h3, and now rook c to d8, just offering a trade of rooks. And here, Grischuk goes for queen to f6. h3 was a very important move before going queen to f6. Because if you played it without that, then after queen f6 you could sort of log the queen out of the game with knight to f5. This way, by playing h3 first, after queen to f6, knight f5, you, for example, if you went knight to f5 here, you could play g4 maybe, sort of get a funky line, let's say g4, h captures, g captures, and now after this knight comes here, you will get rook to d6, and it will be just a very nice position, sort of a free rook lift, as you're going to play rook cd1, and the black cannot capture Of course, if you capture, then it's a problem. You're either losing the queen or you're getting checkmated, since the bishop is also controlling this diagonal. So, not knight to f5, knight back to c8, and now comes rook to d6. Grischuk still goes for the free rook lift, as the idea is pretty much the same. Even capturing with the knight doesn't help. You're just going to capture, and it's still either you lose the queen or you're getting mated. No way around that. So, after rook to d6, we have queen to e7, offering a queen trade, and here Grischuk says, okay, I don't mind this very nice trade. We have queen captures, now comes knight captures. You can't play rook captures, otherwise you lose the rook on d8. So knight captures on e7, and now rook c to d1. Nicely doubling up rooks on the d file, and now rook to b8. Black does not want to trade, as, trading even more will only bring Grischuk closer to a draw, to at least a draw. So, bishop to c1 now, transferring the bishop to this diagonal now. We have c5 by black and bishop to g5. Of course, the rook is going to come to d7, that's the idea. So, rook to b7, trying to control that rook, and now g4. We have rook to c7, as black really doesn't have all that many moves, and now rook to d8, threatening to capture the rook here. We have rook captures, and now king to h7. So it's a really passive position for black, not a lot to do, but it's also a losing position for black. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this wonderful winning idea Grischuk found while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent threatener of mate on h8. And for those of you, rhyme was not intended. And for those of you who just want to enjoy, show bishop to f6. And now, now you either get checkmated on h8 or you go into sort of a zugzwang where you just have to resign. And this is in fact what happened. Rook to c8 is terrible. It seems like you're preventing rook to h8, and you are, but you're not preventing bishop captures on e7. So I hope no one was thinking about rook to c8. But knight to g8, this is the only move, and here Grischuk played g5, and it was in this position that Xiangyu resigned the game, as there is nothing more to do here. He can't really move anything, he can just play move that wastes time. The e7 is covered by the bishop, so you can't use that. You can go here. The d file is controlled by Grischuk's rook. You can just play rook b7, rook c7, rook b7, rook c7, repeat moves, and that's pretty much it. And the white will just get closer and closer with the king, play a3, b4, break open on the queen side, and at one point either go after the c or the b pawn, depending where the black rook will be. And of course, if you capture on f6, this doesn't really change anything, just e captures on f6, and still you don't have any moves. You can just play some moves, a6, a4. You can try b5, but let's say a captures, white will not capture on b5 just for now. The winning idea is rook to e8. Now you're gonna go rook to e7 and either get a pass pawn on e7 or, for example, capture on f7 and then go after the queenside pawns. We could imagine something like bishop captures, and rook d7, and after rook e7 finally comes, now you either go rook to d1 check, you cannot trade, king g2, and now king to g8, defending this, but now you're just gonna force the king back. Rook e8 check, king h7, rook c8. White is much quicker to go after the c5 pawn, and after rook to c1, rook captures on c5. And with the king being unable to enter the game via any means, you're just gonna put the rook on c8, push the pawn all the way to c7, and black will be paralyzed. White will be able to do whatever white wants. So yeah, that's what would happen in this case, and well, that's if you capture. If you don't capture, if anyone is interested, let's say you just repeat moves, rook b7, rook c7, rook c7, you just bring the king into the game. King g2, rook c7, you're gonna go king f3, rook b7, king e3, rook c7, king d3, rook b7, king to c3, rook c7, h4, you're just gonna block the position, a3, rook goes back to c7, you're gonna play f3, rook b7, and now you're gonna push b4. Rook back to c7, now you go rook to b8, you take away this square from the black rook, but it doesn't help. You leave him the d7 square, but it's not all that much. B captures on c5, b captures on rook c8, you're gonna win this pawn, and then it's pretty much the same idea. The knight can't move, the king can come into the game, and the black rook is hopeless against all of white's forces. So yeah, after g5, it was either get mated or go into this wonderful Zugzwang Grischuk created, and well, I really enjoyed this game. It was the game I chose, but if you really enjoyed some of the games, then feel free to use hashtag suggestion. For those of you who were waiting for Dingliren versus Alireza Firoja, I decided not to show those games as, well, spoiler alert, both of their classical games were drawn, and they were like really, really intense. Well, not intense, but they were like, first game was like a really strong preparation followed by a draw, and the second game was a really quick 21 move draw where Ding had the white pieces. Ding I believe he even offered the draw maybe, but it was a really quick draw. I didn't feel like showing it, and it's gonna be really awesome, as Alireza is really well, ferocious when it comes to rapid games, but Ding just knocked out Magnus Carlsen in rapid tie breaks in the Sinkfield Cup. So it's gonna be tomorrow. We're gonna have some crazy games between Ding and Firoja. You can bet on that. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Dave Pierce, Gianarigo Rona, Ata Aydin, Kiko, and Jamie Thompson for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of the World Cup, checking up on your suggestions, and, well, as soon as we get this over with, the conclusion of the Capablanca saga. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.